Now let's talk about key consideration for microservice adoption. First and foremost is understanding. Microservices are not just about breaking a monolith into smaller parts. It's a fundamental shift in how you design, develop, and operate software. Ensure that your team has a thorough understanding of these principles and follow them generously while building the microservices. Next is the alignment. Microservices often require a cultural shift within the organization. Teams will have to embrace DevOps practices, decentralized decision making, and collaborate across service boundaries. Next is clear goal. Identifying the specific business goal and technological challenges that microservice can address. Understanding the why is crucial to a successful adoption. Next is right choice. Not all components should be microservices. Be careful about this point. Carefully select the parts of your application that will benefit most from the microservices approach. Now let's move to the next slide. Next key consideration is scalability needs. Access your application scalability requirement. Microservices can help scale individual services independently, that we know very well, but you need to identify where this granularity is essential. So you need not scale when it's not required, and the opposite is also true. Next is technology stack. You should typically select your technology stack based upon two things. One, what is the requirement of the ecosystem, and what are the skills available within your development team. Next is service boundaries. Define clearly services service boundaries. Service should have a single responsibility and a well-defined API. Now, if you overlap these responsibilities, this can lead to confusion and dependencies. Next is data management. Decide how the data will be managed across microservices. Like we have earlier read, you could have it per database per microservice, or you could choose to have a shared database. It's completely up to you. So you'll have to manage that strategy, but be aware of the implications. Now let's move to the next slide. Next key consideration is communication and integration. Plan how microservices will communicate and integrate. Use well-established patterns like APIs, well, whether they will make it over the HTTP protocol, HTTPS protocol, or through message queues or event-driven architecture to ensure services can work together seamlessly. Next is monitoring and observability. Implement robust monitoring and observability solutions to track the health and performance of your microservices. Tools like distributed tracing and centralized logging are essential for troubleshooting and optimization. For this, you have various tools like Splunk, CloudWatch, etc. Next is testing plus quality. Develop comprehensive testing strategies that encompasses unit integration and end-to-end testing. Automation is key to ensure the reliability of your microservice. Next is security. Implement security measures for your authentication, authorization, and data protection. Microservices may require a different security approach compared to monolith application because there is too much inter-process communication. Now let's move to the next slide. Next is versioning and compatibility. So because your individual microservices can upgrade independently, establishing a strategy for versioning of your microservice API is to ensure backward compatibility while allowing for incremental updates. Next is error handling. Designing your microservice to be resilient is important. Implement error handling mechanisms, circuit breakers, and fallback options to mitigate service failures. Next is documentation. Now, because there are so many microservices, We'll have to maintain clear and up-to-date data documentation for each microservice, including APIs and usage guidelines. Next is change management. Develop a change management strategy to handle updates, rollbacks, and continuous integration and continuous deployment for your microservice. So you'll have to do your CI/CD pipelines. That's it for the key considerations. Next, we will talk about microservices, tools, and technologies in the next lecture.